Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Level Chain channel. Today I'm going to answer a question or a few questions from aviation sound expert. I'm going to call him Route 2 Maniac, and you will understand really soon. I'm going to read his comment first, and then I'm going to try to explain step by step, even giving you more information about everything that he talks about in his comment about Route 2, engine out SID, Route 1, and so on. So I started the CDU FMC topic on the 777 course. And then it says, please, if possible, show us also examples with the 737 NG. I have a lot of examples about the 737 NG in this channel already. When I cover the 737, what I can do and what I'm going to do on the 777 series is to try to explain you the differences from the 737, because I think this is really important. Most of you know how to fly the 737, are familiar with the 737 FMC, so the little differences between the FMCs I'm going to explain as I explain each page for you. Then it says, because we know that many functions are not available in the 737 NG, which are available in the 777. Yes, that is correct. However, there are some features that are available on the 73 and not available on the 777, and I'm going to try to cover those things. But as these are very specific things on both FMC, I'm going to talk about them on each dedicated page that I give to you on the Boeing 777 course. So far, for the CDU, we have an introduction for the CDU pre-flight, is the episode number 4, and then we have the series of episode number 4. I already give you 4.1, 4.2, and 4.3 if I'm not mistaken, and I think 4.4 will talk about route and so on, and we go from there, we go on those specific pages. Then he starts asking, what I had requested, Route 2 programming in the 737 NG, especially what purposes it is used for. So here is the first thing. The 737 FMC Route 2 is an option, just like on the 777, but I can tell you that is not a basic option. So most of the companies, they do not have Route 2 in the 737 NG. This is to save cost, okay? So you have to deal with it. The pilots, they have to deal with it. I flew the 737 for almost 8 years, and my company did not have the Route 2 option. So you have to deal with other functions on the FMC, like the fixed page, to select or to show what would you like to have on Route 2. That doesn't mean that if you have a Route 2, you do not use the fixed page, and I'm going to show you today that I can use, and I use both in real life. Okay, so on the 737, usually you do not have Route 2, and you have to deal with that. If you have a 737 with Route 2, then the same principles apply from the ones that I'm talking on the 777. So I'm going to discuss 777 Route 2 with you, and you can use the same strategy for the 737, okay? Especially the purposes that are used to. There are pilots who say that you don't enter engine out SID, EOSID in Route 2 page. I'm going to be very clear here. You do not have to, but there is nothing wrong about doing it. And I'm going to show you why I do it and what are the benefits when you do those things. However, have in mind that engine out SID on the 777 is not functional on the PMDG. I've never seen any simulator home simulator that would include engine out SIDs, including engine out SIDs pop up on the 777. And that's something that we should start talking about into the FMC, and then I come back to this page as we can keep reading and answering Aviation Expert or Route to Maniac. Here we are in the Microsoft Flight Simulator. So basically what we have is, here on the 777 FMC, if you go to departure and arrival and you are still on the ground, it will always open on the departures for your origin airport. But you can always go to index page, and then you will find the departure from your origin airport, arrivals from your origin airport, and then arrivals on your departure airport. And you have the same thing for route 2 if you have something on route 2. So far I do not have anything on route 2. When you are on these departure pages, you are going to see here that we have SIDs, and then you have the list of SIDs. It doesn't finish on the first page. In this case, you have 11 pages. Note that on the right side, you have only the runways available, so you can select any of the 4 runways from Milan in Italy. I always start working with the departure pages through the runway, because once I select the runway again, and I have only one runway here on the right side, in this case, even though 35 left is the active one, I'm going to select the 35 left again. So now I have only 35 left. I have information that the takeoff speeds are deleted because I finished with the performance before. Not a big deal, I'm just going to clear this message. But the most important thing is, once I select runway 35 left, my departure pages change from 11 to 3 pages, because now it's only showing me the departures that are available from runway 35 left. So this is the first thing that you have to understand. So we have 5 SIDs on page 1, another 5 SIDs on page 2. I selected before ERCAT 7 Alpha, which is the one that you have in the chart on top here. And if you go to the next page, you have another 3 SIDs. In the real 777, after the last SID, the same thing as written SIDs, you will have AOSID, which means engine out SID. Of course, if the engine out SIDs are available. Actually, even if the engines out SID are not available, you have the prompt and then no engine out here, like in this case. But you will have a prompt here showing you that from that space you start to have engine out SID, which is usually 1 per runway. In the 777 by PMDG, we do not have this option. So because we do not have this option, there is a function on the 737 that we also do not have. And that function is, anytime you are taking off and you have an engine failure, the system recognizes an engine failure. The engine out SID associated to your departure runway will pop up automatically, and it's going to modify your legs page the same way we have a modification right now on the right CDU. As you can see, you have mod route 1 legs, which is a modification to our legs on the route 1. This happens automatically, and instead of reselecting the SID that I just selected, the system will pop up the legs page with the route and the legs for the engine out SID. And the only thing that the pilots they have to do is to execute this. So with one button you change completely your departure route, and you can keep tracking LNAV going towards the fix that you are supposed to go in case you have an engine failure. Why many pilots, they may say, if you have the route 2 on your FMC, you do not have to enter it on route 2 because it's automatic. If you have an engine failure, you have a pop-up, you press one button, you execute. You don't even have to move to route 2, activate and execute. The difference is maybe you want to fly your engine out SID and the system or the airplane did not recognize the engine failure yet, or you have a different problem that is not related to your engine but is still more comfortable for you to fly the engine out. I will give you one example here in Milan. As you can see, if you look into our navigation display here on the left side, I turn on the terrain display and I'm aligned on runway 35 left. I cannot see much from outside. It's a cloudy, rainy day in Milan right now, the time that I'm recording this video. So I cannot really see, but I know there are mountains. We have the Alps really close by to Milan. So here we have the indication of the Alps. Even if I zoom out, you are going to see now that we have terrain up to almost 15,000 feet, within 20 to 30 miles from your airplane. So that means it's not a good idea to continue straight ahead. And as you can see, the standard SIDs, the departures from Milan, runways 35, which is the most used runways in Milan, they always have a turn to the left or to the right to get you away from the terrain, of course. However, let's assume that you are taking off from Milan and instead of engine failure, engine fire, or any other thing that may impact your performance. For example, maybe your gear stays down and you don't really know what is your climb capability with engine out. You don't know if you are going to be able to follow and comply with all the restrictions on the SID. So something is happening, something different, and I'm going to give you another example. Maybe you have unreliable airspeed. This is one of the most serious failures that you can have on a big airplane like this, especially if you are IMC. In a situation like this today, if I'm departing Milan and 500 feet, I do not have my airspeed indications functioning correctly, this is a big issue. There are memory items that I have to do. The memory items will include turning off auto throttle, autopilot, and flight director. So I'll have to fly manually. I'll have to set a specific pitch, a specific thrust, and that will keep me flying somehow until I have access to tables in our quick reference handbook that will then eventually help me to fly this airplane and bring this airplane back to Milan, or go to another airport if I have better conditions, meteorological conditions in this airport. So what is the main important thing? Even though I just lost, for example, the airspeed indication, I still have my map, I still have everything else. It's really hard to track this SID when you have this kind of problem, because you are dealing with many things at the same time. Most probably a very noisy cockpit. You may have stick shaker, you may have overspeed warning, and many things that will be bothering you and you cannot really cancel. Maybe you are going to be flying your airplane with the stick shaker, so maybe the airplane believes that you are stalling because your indicated airspeed is so low, but you are not really, because you know you are in the correct pitch, in the correct thrust. So this is a big mess. So let's imagine that you are doing this you just rotated and then you have this problem. So if you follow your SID at 1200, let's follow here in the chart as well, you have to turn left. Then you have to cross Mike Charlie 623, maximum to 10 knots, above 1800. Then you continue, most probably you have another slight right turn to follow 318 towards 624, crossing above 3000. And then if you are going all the way to the right side at this point, after you cross, because this is a fly by, this is a flyover fix for the EarCat 7 Alpha, it's a flyover. You need to complete this turn with maximum 220 knots, and then on 632, maintaining maximum 6000, you need to turn right and not below 4000 towards EarCat. So you are going to be doing all these turns, and you don't really have an amazing performance, because if you apply your memory items after acceleration altitude, you're going to have less thrust, not an ideal pitch to climb, and so on. So it's a big problem. So would be much more simple if I understand that I have this failure and I follow engine out, which in this case for runway 35 left, and I'm going to show you a good resource for you to find these engine out SIDs. It's to continue straight ahead to 3 miles from the airport and then just turn left towards Nelab. Much simple. So I keep climbing straight ahead. I don't think about any turn. I keep my airplane with maximum lift possible because I have the wings level, but I cannot keep the wings level all the way here in Milan. I need to turn at some point. The SID is too complicated. I just follow the engine out SID, which is a left turn towards Nelab. So because you do not have an engine failure, you do not have a pop-up for this engine out SID. So if you have that engine out SID on the route 2, you just go to route 2, activate, execute, and then you already have your track to follow your engine out SID. In this case, you still do not have flight director, you still do not have autopilot, you still do not have auto throttle. However, you have a magenta line, very simple, going straight ahead for 3 miles and turning left towards the fix in the lab, which is this one here on the left side. So much simple. So what are engine out SIDs in general? They are simple routes that you can follow that basically will keep you away of terrain, because they are designed to be followed in case you lost one engine, so you have performance degradation. Another case that I told you, maybe your gear did not come up, you do not want to follow your standard SID because you have some altitude constraints, maybe you have terrain around. The option for you is to go to the engine out. So for you not to go to departure arrival, go all the way to follow your engine out. If you have already pre-planned on route 2 what you are going to do in these cases, you just activate and execute. Of course, in case of, one more time, engine failure already recognized by the system, do not change to route 2, do not activate and do not execute. Keep route 1, just execute on the real airplane where you have. But here also on the sim, for the people that are listening to me and are only flying the simulator, you will not have this, so you have to go to route 2 and do something from route 2. If you do not have route 2, you add those information on fixed page, and I'm going to add this information on fixed page even if I have route 2, because this is another backup, this is another tool that I have to fly my engine out. Is going to increase my situational awareness. One more thing that I'm going to show you, and now we go back to our Internet Explorer. Here we are. I'm not going to talk about the rest of the things right now. I just want to show you a really nice website, blackbox711.com. It's a really nice website from, as far as I know, German pilot. I know he was flying for Lufthansa at some point, so I suppose he's German. not sure about his nationality, but anyway, very experienced pilot that just retired some time ago. And on this website, you will find his Twitch, his YouTube channel, and so on, including a web app, Microsoft Flight Simulator toolbar, and Flow Pro. So you have many things here. You will find many things from this website. But one thing that I want you to do, you go to web application here on the, you cannot see because of my camera. So I'm going to take my camera out, and here on the right side on top you have the web app. So you click on the web app, it opens a new page, and then on this new page you have some interesting information. You do not have the entire world, but most of the airports that we fly commercially around the world, especially the ones with terrain issues, you will find here. For example, it doesn't matter if you write it on departure or arrival. For example, if I type here Kilo JFK, so let's talk about New York. You have some information about New York, the current matter, and then you have JFK is New York, United States, transition out to the airport elevation, information about the runway, noise abatement, departure procedure, information about these runways, and then below you have engine failure procedures and even some notes. So let's go back to Milan, so you are going to understand it better now because we discussed everything. So Milan, Italy, transition out to the 6,000, airport elevation is 7,068 feet. We have two runways, one is 17 left, 35 right. 17 left has Cat 1 approach, heading is 166 or course is 166. On 35 right you have Cat 3 approach and 347. The runway is 3,920 meters by 60. You have the elevation of the touchdown zones, the highest elevation of the touchdown zones, and the available landing distance. Note that on runway 35 right, you have full runway 3,920, but on 17 left, you only have 2,977, almost a kilometer shorter on 17 left because of the displaced threshold, and you have the same information for 35 left and 17 right. Then you have information for your departure. In this case, we follow NADP1 with a thrust reduction at 2,270, which is basically 1,500 above the airport, and the acceleration altitude 3,770, which is 3,000 above airport elevation. Then you have some information about the runway itself, and then what is very important for us today is the engine failure procedure. Here you will find engine failure procedure that you can follow on your Microsoft Flight Simulator, or the real pilots can compare to their real procedures. And on runway 35 left, which is the one that we are departing today, we have an acceleration altitude of 2,300. So basically we start accelerating only above 1,500, and the procedure is for the engine out SID is that at 3 DME from Mike Papa, and here we have the frequency for Mike Papa 113.35, you do a left turn to NELAB and you hold NELAB. So this is the information that we have. If we had the engine out, this engine out option on the 777 by PMDG, this could be an option for 35 left. So you have like a normal SID with this description. So straight ahead, 3 miles, left turn to NELAB. We do not have this option, but we can include this on fixed page and few places even in route 2. This is a little bit tricky to set to route 2 because we do not have our departure going 3 miles straight ahead. Anytime you have a point that is 3 miles straight ahead, in this case if you are using 3 miles, you can take that point on route 2 and from that point construct your engine out SID. Here we do not have, because the turn on the SID is before the 3 miles, but you got the idea. And how I would use this on the real airplane. So let's say I do not have the option for the engine out, or my engine out is not updated in the FMC and so on. So what I will do here is I'm just going to erase the last modifications I did, because I did not really modify anything. So I'm going to go on the fixed page and I'm going to enter Mike Papa, which is the Mike Papa, sorry, not Romeo, Mike Papa, which is the VOR that we have on the airport itself. Is not perfectly aligned with the runway. That's why I cannot take 3 miles and a course from the VOR, because this 3 miles is from the VOR, but the track you follow initially is from the runway. But I can know where my 3 miles are, so I use /3, and I'm going to see that now I have a circle 3 miles around Mike Papa VOR. If I zoom in, you are going to see that usually you start the turn before, and the first point on the SID, which is Mike Charlie 623, is already left of my departure. So if you have an engine failure, you are not turning at 1200. It doesn't matter the altitude that you are going to be. Once you reach the 3 miles, once you reach the tip of the circle, then the engine out says left to NELAB. So we know where is NELAB, but we are going to add on fixed page because it's not part of our departure here. NELAB, and we enter here, zooming out. So just taking the terrain out for now so you can see better NELAB here on the left side. So basically I go straight ahead 3 miles. When I have 3 miles, when I reach the circle, I turn left and I go to NELAB, and I'm going to hold over NELAB. Many procedures here in Milan. They go to NELAB. Let me take approach, for example. Approach from Milan to runway 35 left. So let's say that I'm going to always this pro, so 35 left. Actually here we have EGFO, I think is a new fix. Yeah, very close to NELAB. I don't know why they changed this fix, but we have a new fix here. 35 right goes to the other side. EGFO, is that the name? Used to be NELAB here. Okay, I'm just going to write on the third fixed page EGFO. Yeah, it's slightly to the south, so there is a chance that in the future this SID is going to be updated for you to fly instead of NELAB to go slightly south to EGFO, and then you hold there. Because these are the new charts from Milan that started in May 25. So they are here for quite a long time now. But anyway, this is the fix really close by, and you can hold there. I wanted in the beginning to find NELAB, because with any approach that goes towards NELAB, I can hold there. And as you can see, they changed the name of the departures. We do not have, or the arrivals as well. But basically, you can over NELAB, or even if you do not want to hold over NELAB, you can, after reaching NELAB, go south because you know you do not have terrain to the south. Okay, let's add the terrain again here on this SID. So as you can see, you reach 3 miles, and before reaching the mountains there, you turn left and you go to NELAB. This is the engine out for runway 35 left. As I showed you, you can find this on the Blackbox 711 website. Also, as I told you, I cannot really create anything on route 2 because I cannot really identify this point. However, if I'm faced with this situation in the real airplane, I'm going to do a route copy anyway. So on route 2, I have information. Then on route 2, departures, I'm going to select 35 left. Let's keep here on route 2. And I do not want IRCAD 1 alpha. So let me go to route 2, delete. Now I do not have anything. So on route 2, departures 35 left, and that's it. Then after the departure on route 2, 35 left, 3 miles from Mike Papa, I want to fly NELAB. So I'm going to leave at least NELAB here, and then I'm going to create a hold, and then I can hold there, and then the inbound most probably will not be 255. I don't really remember what is the hold, but we can get something like, if I'm not comfortable with NELAB, I can even tell you, because I don't know how to hold at NELAB right now, I can go to the next fix that I selected, egg fold. So what I have on legs 2, NELAB, then egg fold, and then in egg fold, I do my ILS for 35 left, and here I have a holding. This holding is hold at egg fold. 254 is inbound, so 254 is inbound. It is we have left turns. Whoops. So slash left turns, and number 2, fly over for holding pattern only. We should have more information here, which is, this is another holding. We do not have the information about this holding here, so I believe it is the same. We have maximum speed of 190 at 4,000, and if we are able to climb 6,000, we can maintain maximum 210. So this is something that we have to consider as well, and it says direct entry only. So basically on my way to NELAB, I need to go EGFO to do a direct entry, but you got the idea and you have the information there. Can I fly the engine out completely with LNAV if I have in route 2 like this? No, only when I start my turn to NELAB. Okay, so in real world, one pilot will be on route 1. The other pilot most probably is going to be on the takeoff reference page or the VNAV. Those are the 2 options that Boeing gives you as a standard procedure. So let's assume that you are in takeoff reference page, the other pilot is on route 1. So what you have to do once you are airborne and before you reach 1200, if you have autopilot available, let me change here. If you have autopilot available in this case, because usually you depart with LNAV and VNAV. So before 1200, you have the option to change to tracking 345, and then you engage tracking cell with LNAV disengaged, or because you are in takeoff mode, and I'm going to enter the takeoff mode again by turning my flight directors off and turning my flight directors on again. So by being in toga mode with LNAV and VNAV, at least ask the pilot monitoring to disconnect LNAV. And then you keep this toga mode. Basically is going to keep toga mode, keep you the track that you are, but if you just departed perfectly, you are still on the track, you are still going forward. Have in mind that these engine out SIDs, they have some protection, so if you are slightly left, slightly right is not a big issue. And then the pilot monitoring should be ready when you have this kind of information, because you already briefed before. The pilot monitoring, in this case, disarm LNAV, should go to route to legs and wait. Once you reach 3 miles and you start the turn, let me take my camera back. So you took off, you rotate, now you are climbing, you keep straight ahead, you do not turn, you keep toga mode or track mode 345, it's even better if you can. Then once you reach 3 miles, you start the turn. You can even ask for any left turn. You can even say any left turn. So your first officer or your pilot monitoring at this point with tracking cell is going to do any turn to the left. So you have your flight director taking you to the left, and then at this point the pilot monitoring comes here to activate, direct NELAB, and execute. Once he's done with this, he engages again LNAV, and you have everything under control. Remember, if you engage the autopilot at 200 feet, which is the minimum altitude for engagement, or the minimum height for an autopilot engagement on the 777, let me tell you, for example, let's say you want to follow this engine out because you have the gear still down and you are not able to retract the gear. Okay, just an example, something that is not going to pop up, or even if you have an engine failure, and in this case you do not have your engine out SID, usually you depart with LNAV and VNAV armed, so you rotate. Positive rate gear up, engine failure, or on rotation you have engine failure, so you keep climbing, you are flying toga the way it's supposed to be, 200 feet. You can engage the autopilot. Once you engage the autopilot, you have the MCP selections, so you can come and press LNAV to disengage LNAV. And then at 400 feet, which in this case here, close to the 1200 from your standard SID, you can change heading to track, or you can even leave it pre-selected from the departure track, and you just press tracking cell. So the airplane keep tracking straight ahead. Once you reach the tip of the turn, and I can do, after we talk about other things, I can do this departure to you. You start the left turn, and once you start the left turn, you ask your pilot monitoring to come here and activate route 2 towards NELAB. It gives you direct NELAB, and then you just press one more time LNAV, and the airplane keep flying as it is supposed to be. Okay, so let me go back to heading here, 346, and flight directors I'm going to reset again. So I have Toga Toga, LNAV and VNAV armed, and I can, anytime if I did not like, I can go to route 1 again, activate and execute, and I'm back on route 1 if I did a mistake. Okay, so I think I talk a lot about engine out SID, a function that is not present in the 777 by PMDG, but if you have the option, you can enter on route 2. If you have if you cannot fully comply with the engine out on route 2, do whatever you can, like in this case from the turn towards Nela, because I cannot set 3 miles straight ahead, and so on. Also use your fixed page to increase awareness, even if you have your engine out SID, even if the engine out SID pops up, because you have a circle in this case and you know something goes wrong, you do not turn before that circle, and once you reach that circle, it's better start turning because you have terrain ahead of you. Okay, so I think first part of my answer to aviation sound expert is complete. Let me give you another example here for you to understand how this works. I know that there are a few airports, for example, in South America, Ecuador, Mariscal Sucre. No, it's Quito, Mariscal Sucre. Yeah, that's the South America, Ecuador, Quito, Mariscal is the name of the airport. So here you have Quito, Ecuador. It's a different airport. You have only one runway with thresholds 18 and 36. And engine failure. Let's say that you are departing from runway 36, which is the one usually in use in Quito. You keep this is slightly wrong. I think they are completely the opposite here, because if you are departing runway 36, you are supposed to be on track 001 until you are 3 miles from Quebec, November Victor, 117.4. This is 3 miles from the Quito North VOR, so from the VOR that is on the north. At this point, when you are 3 miles before this VOR, you do a left turn and you intercept the radial 325 to the DME 6 of the same VOR, Quito North VOR. At this point, when you reach the 6 miles, you do another left turn, and then you are going to flight track 295 when passing 12,000. Should be something here, so this is incomplete. I'm sorry, I could not completely follow this engine out because it's incomplete, but you do this 3 miles before, you turn left, you go on radial 325 now to 6 miles, and then you turn left again on 295. Once you cross 12,000 feet, most probably you will be below the terrain in that area. You can go back to the VOR on top of the city or so on. Let's see. For example, we got Kennedy here, right? So let's look into Kennedy. Kennedy for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of 8 runways. You just climb straight ahead. So runway 044, the heading is 044. So you keep this heading until you are 25 miles out and you hold there if needed. Most probably you are going to start navigating even before 25 miles. So what this engine out SID is actually telling you, you have no terrain if you follow the standard procedures with engine out to keep climbing straight ahead. For runway 4 left, 2 to right, 4 right, 2 to left, 1 3 left, and 1 3 right. Would be very similar runway 31 right and 31 left. However, this is a very complex airspace, and the engine out SID, it's supposed to take you away from terrain and other traffic or prohibited areas and so on. In this case, if you depart runway 31 right or 31 left in New York, you have many airports around. It's slightly ahead and to the right, LaGuardia. On the other side of the river, you have Teterboro. And if you continue straight ahead for a long time and then you turn left, even if you do it before Manhattan, you are going to hit Newark Airport. So for these two runways, you climb straight ahead. When you are 3 miles from the VOR that is located in the airport, you turn left towards Charlie Romeo India Karnazi VOR frequency 112.3 and you hold. If you are on runway 31 left, at the same point, 3 miles from the VOR, you turn left to Charlie Oscar Lima VOR frequency 115.9 and hold. They are almost at the same place, or they go to the same direction. I can even show you in the flight sim here. I do not want to lock location. Let's go here to New York. Let's zoom in. I want to change the map. And here we go. Let me put it full screen. So this is the airport. So if you are departing runway 31 left or 31 right, when you are 3 miles from this VOR, you have to do a left turn. You cannot turn right because you get close to LaGuardia Airport. You cannot go straight ahead slightly to the left because you have Newark, and if you keep going straight ahead, you have Teterboro and so on. So what they want you to do, if you are departing runway 31 right, you depart 3 miles ahead, you turn towards this VOR here, Canarsie, you can hold here. If you are departing 31 left, you can at 3 miles turn left and come south here to Coles Neck VOR. Even on runway 31 right, if you do 3 miles and instead of stopping in Canarsie, you continue to Coles Neck VOR, it is a good idea. It's going to give you some time to come back and land on the same runway that you departed and so on. So this is, or those are the engine outs for New York. That, one more time, you can find on Blackbox 711 website. If you go one more example, let me talk about Zurich. So Zurich, we are in Europe, Switzerland, Zulu Hotel. Yeah, this is Zurich. Note that in Zurich, because of the terrain, you have a lot of engine out SIDs. For example, if you are departing runway 34, 6.5 miles from Kilo Lima Oscar VOR, you turn right to Zulu Uniform Echo VOR. This is the frequency, and you hold. I'm going to give you another example here. Miami. So Miami, because you do not have the rain around, you do not have any other major airports around. Usually Miami is the main airport, is the most busy one. From any runway, you just keep the runway track, climbing straight ahead up to 25 miles. If you follow standard engine out procedures, you are free to go. Of course, you have to tell ATC your intentions and so on, but these are the procedures for Miami and so on. If I go back to Europe, Italy, Milan, Malpensa, I want to tell you another thing that you can do. On this departure, 3DME from Mike Papa, frequency 113.35, you can go to your FMC on the navigation radius page, you can hard select Mike Mike Papa. In this case, it's Mike Mike Papa already selected, but it's automatic. Once you depart, maybe the system is going to change to another VOR that is better for your current navigation, but it doesn't know that you want to see Mike Mike Papa VOR here. So you have two options. You can come here, Mike Mike Papa. Now the automatic turns into manual and it doesn't change anymore until you change. Or you can also use the frequency 113.35, and in this case I'm going to put on the right side, and you also have the same information. Now it's manual and both things are the same. The system knows that Mike Mike Papa is 113.35 and 113.35 is Mike Mike Papa. You can use any of them. However, I'm going to give you an extra tip. If you completely lose your FMC, the system does not know that Mike Mike Papa is 113.35 without FMC. So, if you are thinking about any VOR that you are going to use, instead of using the designator for the VOR, I would keep, in this case, 113.35 here as pre-selected. In case my FMC goes away, I can anytime come to this page, just select the frequency again and type into my VOR left or into my VOR right, and it's going to select that frequency. If you lose your FMC and you come here and you do Mike Mike Papa, it doesn't take. Okay, so you need your FMC for the letters to work. So in this case of New York, instead of having 115 or instead of JFK, I would write 115.9 on the left side and 115.4 on the right side. I could even select them for departure if I want, but I keep the pre-select the frequencies because I know if that is not my day, if I just lost airspeed indication, for example, and I do not want to crash into any airplane that is in LaGuardia, Teterboro, or Newark, I know I need to follow my standard procedures, but I need to turn to the left. When I turn to the left, 3 miles, so I pre-select here the 3 miles, select 115.9 and just take in, and on the right side I do the same thing. So I know I will have one indication when I'm 3 miles, I'm going to look for the double dot line and I'm going towards Koznik to the left side, for example. Okay, so this is just a bonus tip that you can pre-select frequencies here, or you can pre-select identifications. However, identifications do not work if you lose your FMS system. Okay, anytime you do not want, you can delete, and if you delete the frequencies, they go back to auto. Good enough for now. Let's go back to Aviation Sound Expert. So there are pilots who say that you don't enter engine out SID in route to page, but I would like to know from you if it's true or not. So I just explain that you can and why I will do it. Okay, if you do not want, it's not a mandatory, but I think increases your situational awareness a lot. It helps during the briefing, and it also helps you to brief the other pilot what you're going to do in case this kind of failures that you don't know really how to navigate, where to go, if you have terrain or not, if you are able to follow the SID or not, and you have this problem early enough, you can opt for the engine out SID even with both engines. I would like to know how you program engine out SID if you have only route 1 and no route 2 page. So in this case, you just go to the fixed page as I showed you. Enter on fixed page, enter on the radius, all the information that you can get, all the information that may help you in case situation goes wrong, it's good. No route 2, no option. I would also be great if you show us how to use route 2 during en-route flight, for example, en-route alternate, escape routes, in case of decompression over high terrain, ETOPS planning, and ETOPS alternate. Let's start from the ETOPS planning and ETOPS alternate. I do not use route 2 for that. Basically, if I'm flying ETOPS, and I have to fly to my ETOPS alternate, I will have to follow the contingency procedure for that specific route. Let's say that you are over the North Atlantic. Over the North Atlantic, you have a specific contingency procedure that you have to keep flying in the direction that you are 5 miles left or right from your track. Keep the altitude if you can, or minimize the rate of descent. So you keep your altitude, or you start with the drift down if you can. Once you are 5 miles left or right, it depends. If your alternate is to the right, you do this offset 5 miles to the right. If your alternate is to the left, you do this offset to the left. But it doesn't matter if it's ahead or if it's behind, you keep going the same direction. So you are now 5 miles left or right, then you go down below level 290 to get out of the RVSM space where most of the airplanes are. So you go down, now you increase your rate of descent, you go on level change, thrust levers in idle to go down. Now you are out of the North Atlantic high level airspace, and now you turn. If you are already right and your airport is slightly to the right, you keep going right. If it's right but behind you, you do this 180 turn or slightly less to go to your airport, and so on. Same thing to the left side. Once you are out of this airspace by altitude, you can resume your drift down, go into maximum continuous thrust, for example, if you want, changing the airspeed and so on, whatever you need to fly then towards your alternate airport. So it doesn't matter to me if it's ETOPS or not. What I will do to go to my alternate airport, in case I need to do it fast, I have to start with the contingency procedure for the area that I am. If it's not really fast, I don't need to take any action right now, but I still need to alternate, then you have time to filter route 2 and then activate route 2, or even start modificating your route 1 as you talk to ATC and get the proper clearance to go to that airport. So I think this about ETOPS planning, ETOPS alternate, or any en route alternate, you do like this. Then there is another thing. He talks about escape routes in case of decompression over high terrain. Yes, this is slightly different, because you try to comply with the contingency procedure as much as you can. However, if you are in an area with high terrain, maybe you need to follow strict routes. These routes, they need to be designed by your company. You do not have any information online as the engine out SIDs that I can provide to you guys. I'm sorry. Because all the information that I have, that I use in real life, is property of the company that I fly for. I cannot discuss, I cannot show you them and so on. So, but if you have access, for example, to United Airlines manual, and in this manual you have these escape routes, then I would considering adding them to route 2 and also use the fixed page the same way as I use on the engine out SID. Add as much information as you can. Route and or the fixed page. For two reasons. Route 2, if something goes wrong, because you already pre-planned this route, your situational awareness is increased. You already know what to do. You already planned before. You know what you are doing, and you also have the route 2 to activate, execute, and follow it. Also, fixed page will give you on your navigation display the exact idea on where are those routes, to which side I have to turn. Anytime I look to my navigation display and I see the lines, I see the VORs, I see the airways that I have to go, I keep flying that. Of course, complying with the contingency procedure if I can. However, if I cannot, for example, over Himalayas, that's not much you can do. You have to follow specific routes. You have to turn specific directions depending on where you are, because you do not have many options around there. Another thing, how about not en route alternate, not ETOPS alternate, but destination alternate? Usually, if you are approaching your destination and you believe that there is a high chance, or the probability that you are going to use your alternate is high, you may want to change completely route to your route from your destination to your alternate. I think I did this, I do this actually maybe once a year in real life operations, because let's say I'm going from Amsterdam to Chicago. There are 10 runways, or even more. 8 runways, 16 thresholds in Chicago. If I know that the weather is okay, there is a really good chance that I'm going to land in Chicago. Even if you have a problem with one airplane in a specific runway, you have many other runways that you can use. For example, if I'm going from Luxembourg to Campinas, cargo flight, I'm landing in Campinas, there is only one runway, or maybe it's a good idea to have the route to plan. But if my route to is, or my alternate is São Paulo Guarulhos, which is roughly 30-40 miles away, I'm going to coordinate with ATC the points that they want, and I'm going to use route 1 anyway, and I go to Guarulhos. However, if my alternate in this case is Rio, because Campinas is not that great, the weather today, Guarulhos is close for weather, is below minima, maybe I need to pre-plan already my route towards Rio, and then it's going to be much easier for me to fly towards Rio than if I had to add it manually at that specific time. So using the route 2 is a tool that you have, and I think it should be used as your concern or your level of workload increases a lot and you want to do this before. Like on the departure, I always do engine out and all those things, because if something goes wrong, I want to be prepared. In flight, if the weather is okay, even if I do not have that runway available anymore because an airplane just crashed on the runway and is on the runway, most probably I'm not taking the decision to go to the alternate straight away. I still have to evaluate my alternate airport, the options that I have. Most probably I have time to talk to the company and discuss with them as well where is the best place for this airplane now. So it doesn't matter. I select, for example, let's say that I'm flying from Boston to Amsterdam. And now, because of a huge snowstorm, Amsterdam is below minima, completely closed. I cannot go. I have most probably fuel enough and time enough to talk to my company and decide if they want this airplane in Paris, in London. I don't know if London is going to accept me. Usually London Heathrow only accepts diversion in case of emergency. So maybe I need to go to London Gatwick or Stansted, or maybe it's better for me to go to Frankfurt. I don't know. This is going to be discussed among the pilots based on the weather information, based on NOTAMs, based on fuel on board, and also the commercial part for the company. So adding anything on route 2 that maybe you are not going to use in a normal flight for a diversion, I don't feel it's the ultimate thing to do. But if you want to plan ahead, do. If you are lucky enough to use that information, you use it. But engine out, usually you have only one option, so there is no other thing that you are supposed to do. Or you fly your standard SID, or you fly the engine out, or you ask ATC for vectors if you are above a certain altitude and they can provide you, and so on, but you do not have many options. So that we know what else I can do with route 2. Yeah, basically that's what I set. I set engine out SIDs for departure. Then after reaching cruise level, I copy the route again. So I have all my route in case I do a modification on route 1 and I want to know what was my original route. It is there. And getting close to destination, I can plan on route 2 a different runway. This is really helpful. Let's say that you are landing in London and they have runway 9 right for arrivals. You plan everything for 9 right, but at the same time you can also leave route 2 pre-plan to runway 9 left in case they are they have more traffic and they want to use both runways for arrival. Or the wind is crosswind and you are planning on 9 right, but maybe the wind is shifting, changing, and maybe they are going to change to runway 27, so you can already pre-plan and keep runway 27 as an option for you. That is about your flight. Another thing that I would do, and this is another tip that I have for you guys. Let's go to the sim again. Let's say that I'm going to JFK. Okay, I do not have fuel to go there, I know, not a big problem. But now I'm going to JFK. I can even change my route here. So let's just change to a turn to the left here to make it more sense. So NELAB 6 Alpha. NELAB 6 Alpha. Now I have, as you can see, oh, I'm on route 2. That's not what I want. I want departure on route 1. NELAB 6 Alpha. That's the one I have. Okay, so this is departure and so on, and I'm going to just add here my speeds. Okay, so now I'm going to New York. Let's say I'm planning to land on New York runway 22 right. So I have 22 right here. After I finish set up to runway 22 right, I do it even on the ground. This is what is planned. This is the information that I have right now. I don't know if I'm going to be landing on 22 right or not. There is a high chance that I'm going to be landing on 22 right because of the wind that we have in New York forecasted for that day. Let's say the wind is from 180 with 10 knots, the forecasted wind. There is a high chance that I'm going to use runway 22 right in sorry, to left in JFK. So I'm going to change here to left. This is usually my arrival in New York. That's what I know. Usually it comes on the flight plan. This is just planning, but you can do. So that's what we have on route 1. The departure, then your full route, full route, and then the discontinuity here in this case to the ILS to left. This wind was not a good idea. Let me give you another wind that is going to fit the situation that I want to show you. So yeah, no, 180 is a good wind. So most probably runway 22. And on runways 22, even left and right, I have ILS approaches for those runways. However, wind 180, if it's busy in New York, sometimes they also land on runway 13 left. That's the most common. Sometimes can be 13 right, but also most common is 13 left. However, 13 left, it's very rare that they are going to use an ILS because of Teterboro, LaGuardia, New York, and so on. And most of the times, what they do, if I change this airport here, KJFK, and I go on approach, so usually runways 22, we have the ILS, simple, not a big deal, to left, to right. But if I'm landing on 13 left, big chance they are not using this ILS because of LaGuardia, Newark, Teterboro. There is a high chance that they are going to use the GPS or the RNPAR to runway 13 left if your company is authorized. So if your company is authorized RNPAR, the pilot has to request and they are going to get. Otherwise, they are going to be using RNAV Zulu 13 left, Parkway Visual to 13 left to right, or even the VOR, GPS 13 left, 13 right, which they all finish with a visual segment. So you have this option. But let's say my airplane and my company and myself, we and the other pilots on board, we are all qualified to do the RNPAR, and I want to do the RNPAR. So what I do, I go on index. After I do a route copy, I can go on JFK, arrival on route 2, and I can select the RNAV RNPAR runway 13 left from Covir. Then I can go on the route 2 and make sure that the information that I have here matches the chart. I do not have the chart to show you, but I will have the RNPAR starting from Covir, heading 043, 6 miles to Assault, crossing 3,000 or above. Keep almost same heading towards Azud, another 4 miles, 3,000 or above. This is the final approach fix. Then I continue straight ahead, 044, 5 miles to Wirko. From this point, actually from Zazu towards Wirko, I have a 3-degree glide path. I cross Wirko 1,355 or above. Jevni on the arc, 3 miles, same glide path, 313 feet. And then I'm aligned with the runway 13 left, heading 134, 1 mile on the same glide path to cross the runway at 63 feet, including my missed approach. That does not mean that if the arrival runway change, I'm going to enter on route 2 and select route 2 straight away. This is one option. However, what I just did, I just validate my database. So if any time, even on route 1, I select this approach, I know that this approach is the correct one. I already validated before. I can do it in cruise. I can do it way before New York. Let's say from Milan to New York, I have roughly 8 hours of flight. So I can do mid-flight. I can use the route 2 arrivals and validate the arrivals that I have to, especially the approach is that I'm going to use LNAV and VNAV for landing, for approach and landing, because I need my FMC to have exactly the correct information. Plus minus 2 degrees, plus minus 1 mile, and the glide path plus minus 0.1 or 001 if it's an RNPAR, and so on. So if I'm in flight and then I just select this, I know that this procedure is correct. And then I can show you here that we have also the procedure from COVID, Assault, Zazud, Wirko, and so on, because I already validated during my flight on route 2. I use the route 2 just to validate, because I don't want to change my route 1 and make a mistake or something. I just want to validate before, in case I'm going to use, it's a last minute runway change in New York. I know that the procedure is correct in the database and I go for it. I cannot go for the procedure without checking the points, but this checking the points can be done before because the database is the same. I don't need to do this check the time that I select. It's already there. I validated in flight. I change. I go direct COVID, Assault, or so on, and I fly the approach, and we are done. Okay. Many pilots, they think they have to cross-check everything at that time. No, they can cross-check before. And then, of course, if there is something wrong, an altitude they can and they have to change, they can already write in a piece of paper. Let's say that you don't want to cross Azul at 3000 or above, you want it to be at 3000. This is one of modifications that you can do. I would not do it, but if you can and you want, you can come here and remove the above, for example, and then you execute, because you already planned before. You check how the leg page defines each fix, and you know, for example, that you want to be here at 150 knots at 3000. You select 150 knots 3000. That's the only modification that you do once you select the approach and you are ready to go. Maybe changing your minimums, review the missed approach that you also reviewed before, right? Once you are reviewing the approach, you can also review the missed approach. Initially, you go 400 feet straight ahead, then you fly 133 to feather, 080 to Hirbo, climbing 4000, and you hold at Hirbo, and so on. So this is pre-plan. Okay. So here we are back to, in this case, it would be interesting to know the differences between the 73, the 777, 74, 75, 76. All of them, they have slightly differences on the FMC. I only know about the 73 and the 777 because those are the two airplanes that the 737 I was flying 8 years ago. The 777 I'm flying for the past 8 years. So those are the two FMCs that I know and I can talk about it. I don't really know the differences between the other ones. And as I said, I'm going to cover the differences from the 73 on the 777 course when I talk about the FMC. If you don't mind, if you make 10 videos about route 2, I don't believe I need 10 videos about route 2. This is 1 hour and 20 almost about route 2, one video only, and I think it's more than enough. You can go step by step, and let's go back and do that SID, that engine out that I promised you. Let's go back here. And let's see what we have. I'm going to go on route and change to Lima Tango Foxtrot Mike. Departure 35 left. 7 Alpha, Oscar 6 transition. So I have my SID. It's there on route 1. On route 2, I'm going to go back to route 1. I'm going to do a route copy. Now on route 2, I'm going to enter route 2, NELAB, And then on next page, I'm going to hold NELAB. I'm going to use inbound. This one looks okay. I'm just going to change to left turns because then I stay away from the terrain. And I'm going to use 5 miles so I don't get further away if I'm faster than this. So that's it. We don't really need this departure here. We know what we are doing. I'm going to use the speeds that we have here. So how is my plan? Okay, departing runway. Let me change this. Yep, so terrain on the first officer side, weather on my side. Usually first officer side stays on legs 1, and because I selected before, actually I go to legs 2, and on number 2 I'm going to select arrival, runway ILS Yankee 35 left, and I'm going to take the final approach fix for this runway. So basically, let me change it to center here. So what I did is, in case this is the normal departure 1200, we will turn left, but we have an engine failure, so I'm going to continue straight ahead to 3 miles and then turn left to NELAB, and then after holding NELAB I can go on radar vectors toward 35 left, and this EGFO is the missed approach for the ILS. So I have these two things, okay? So NELAB and EGFO missed approach for the ILS itself. Okay, back to normal view. What else? I think we are all set. One thing that I will do here then, in this case, when it's Milan, I do not have engine out, I do not have many things. I would already keep my heading actually in track 346, which is the departure heading or the departure track that I want to follow. And here on the menu, PMDG setup, aircraft, failures. Let's select engine, programmed, and I want what is my, I can do V1 cut on the right side. Let me think. This is going to be a left side, so the most difficult one will be, yeah. So let's take engine 2, V1 cut, active, and execute. Now the airplane should give us a V1 cut, and the trim is supposed to be 4. There we go. I think we are all set, ready to go, guys. I'm just want to make a few things here to make sure everything is as supposed to be. So we have Toga Toga, LNAV and VNAV 6000, the auto brake RTO, flaps 5. And there we go. I'm going to keep this webcam there. I think is not preventing you from see what I'm doing. Is actually good because I'm going to use my physical MCP instead of touching, okay? But I'm going to tell you what I'm doing, and let's take the sim audio. Let me turn Okay. Actually, this needs to be in 5. Up. And all down. Yep, I know. I'm already idle. Come on. Yep, went away. So imagine you are departing and you have all these sounds and stick shaker in case you have an airspeed unreliable and so on, and then you have to deal with all this SID. Not a good idea. Okay, let's go. Parking brakes released. %55. Takeoff. Thrust ref. Thrust set. 80 knots.
V1.
Oops. This is very bad here on my sim, but anyway, rotate and we can get out. Really bad departure. Positive rate gear up. Look, LNAV is engaged. This is going to keep me until 1200. I have 200, I can engage autopilot and go in tracking cell. Master caution, engine failure. So I'm going on 346, straight ahead. It's only engine failure, now identify, thrust ref VNAV speed, was engine failure. We have no vibration, so we consider a standard engine failure. I'm going to pre-plan here my legs 2. I'm still going to 3 miles. This is 2.5. Airplane starts accelerating. 3 miles now. I start turning left. I go to activate, direct NALAB, execute, LNAV, flaps 1, direct NALAB again, and we have LNAV. LNAV was not engaged, now it is, reaching flaps 1, flaps up. I can go back to heading, and I'm going towards NALAB. So I did it alone, it's not a big deal, especially if you have another pilot to help you is even better. Now we are reaching flap up speed, we have maximum continuous thrust, we can go, I can even give you this information on VNAV and set engine out, execute, is not a big deal. And then we can do the engine failure right checklist, for example. But as you can see, airplane is flying perfectly. Okay, this was how I would use the tools that I have to fly this engine out. I missed the confirmation for the LNAV during the turn, was not engaged, and I missed it because I was turning in heading cell, but I was able to regain control of LNAV and go again. However, in 2 pilots you will have one pilot selecting the LNAV or the lateral modifications on the FMC, the other one selecting on the autopilot and checking on the FMA. Not a big deal. As you notice, before 1200, which my LNAV was going to take me left, I disengage LNAV or I select tracking cell in that case to keep going straight ahead, and then this left turn once we reach 3000 going towards NALAB, and the airplane is going to reach 5000 soon. speed, we have altitude, and we can maintain this 6000 and flap up speed and so on. Okay, if airplane starts or stop climbing the way it was supposed to be to 6000, you can always revert to VS, level change or so on, and then you keep this. In this case, because we do have terrain, maybe it's not a good idea to go really far. I would actually start turning via radar vectors to go back to runway 35 right. I'm discussing with you many things. I didn't run the checklist yet, but this was just to give you an example on how you can use Route 2, what are the modes that you can use on your autopilot to fly it manually. Good thing on the 777, or to fly it automatically, good thing on the 777, 200 feet AGL is the minimum altitude for autopilot engagement, and usually the first turn is not below 400 feet. So once you engage the autopilot at 200, if you have airplane under control, you still have another 200 feet to change to tracking sail, heading sail, or keep the LNAV as you want. Airplane not climbing enough. There we go. I missed this speed as well, but we are fine. Cabin is ready in case we need to go back for our landing. Guys, I hope you liked this video. I hope Aviation Sound Expert knows more about engine out SID, Route 2, how to plan, what to look for, and the website that I show you, Blackbox 711, is going to help you a lot when dealing with this kind of information. I see you next time. Bye bye.